really important. Hope I didn't put you to sleep with so much fast stuff. But just wondering, any questions or comments about adopting our children spiritually? Saying or great.
The thing that kind of struck home was ask questions.
Huge. All the difference in the world between listening and telling. People are lonely, people want to be known, and if we'll ask and listen, they'll feel valued and they'll open. It's huge. It's not a law, but it should be. I mean, it's really important. Can I take this off? I've been wanting to be good this whole week. Okay, good. Thank you, Norm. That's a great point to underline. Both in the formal meeting that we talked about last night, when we worked on how to coach them in their relationship with God, all 5 of those big pillars were questions from Jesus. And so, let me just say, it's really not real hard to do that. Just ask a question. Who do you say Jesus is? Or what do you know about Jesus? Most people don't mind telling you what they think. Kids, until they get turned off, are happy to chatter on. Or tell me something good. Now, I always, with kids for sure, and even with adults, I say, what good happened? And I hope you know the rationale for that. Because if it's good and perfect, I know it came from God. And that can help us identify what God is doing in the world right now. And kids need to know this isn't just a bunch of ideas. It's real experiential life with God. And He really came to save us, and He will, if we'll listen and believe and obey. Meaning, if we don't, it doesn't go well. If we do, we might get attacked from without, but we'll be able to work through from within. So, still wrestling? Anyhow, the point, questions last night, and then on Sunday night, questions about their life, questions about how they reacted, questions about their heart, which is the cause, asking them to identify what they think about that. So it's always listening. And most of the time, parents are prone to lecture a lot. Is everybody aware of that?
Can I share one thing about what's good?
Yeah, sure.
I had a group, and my administrative responsibility was a whole group of special education teachers. And parents that have real handicapped kids don't get a lot of positive feedback.
Yes.
You always get called.
Yeah.
And so I bought for all of the teachers who volunteer, all the special ed teachers, I said, I'll buy you a Polaroid camera and all the film you need. Whenever you see kids doing something good,
Yes.
take a picture and send it home.
Fabulous. Catch them doing something good.
And the ones who really use that have terrific benefits.
Way to go. And in the church, we can take it the next step farther, because we know where every good and perfect idea or desire is initiated. Way to go, Norm. Good for you. Fun having you with us. I like when you tell stories. Okay, how are we doing? Are we within striking range? Huh?
I'm still working on it.
Okay, do you have it? Did it get to? Okay. All right. Good. That was great. A great summary. Now tonight, we're going to work hard, not on methods, which we did the last 2 nights. You're well aware of that. Those were methods. Those were strategies. Those were things to do. And a lot of times parents say, I don't want any theory. Tell me what to do. Well, that's good to tell them. But if you don't know why you're doing it, it won't last long. You got to know why you're doing what you're doing, but you got to know how to do it. You got to do something. Tonight I'm going to work with you with what I believe to be desperately, desperately needed. I'll just say it and you can throw rocks at me. Dr. Spock came and we haven't recovered. And if that doesn't mean a thing to you, don't worry about it. And tonight I might be, I'm gonna do a little bit of theological work tonight, conceptual, that I hope will be very meaningful. It'll be principles and some theology, if we get there. Can anyone quote the Great Commission while we're standing? All authority in heaven has been given to me, therefore, go. That's Mark. Yeah, there you go. Make disciples of all nations, baptizing them. You're doing good. Baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and teaching them what? To obey teaching them to obey. Do you know how much they're to obey? Everything Jesus commanded. That's the Great Commission Jesus gave to his disciples in establishing the church. And if you haven't figured this out yet, I believe that the children's hope is through the parents and the family. We just can't get done what is needed to get done in the church, and the parents have to understand. But who discipled the parents so they don't know what to do? And so that's what we've been working on this week. Hopeful? Good. We're not stalling, we're just waiting. Any other questions or comments? Matthew 28, 18 through 20.
I have a question about
Yes.
prompting, when you feel the urge to prompt the response.
Okay.
And I'm talking about, what do you think, I'm going to say it all wrong. What do you think God thinks? And what do you think I think? And
Okay.
when it's like, I don't know, does that happen? I mean,
Oh,
will
yeah.
he jump in
Oh, yeah.
eventually with something?
Maybe.
Or do we need to prompt, or are we supposed to at all
Well,
costs?
again, there's no rule. Is that okay to say? I don't want, but believe that God is with you to help you, okay? But when someone says, well, I don't know, or they say, I don't know, I say, take a guess. I always have fun with them. If you're wrong, that's all right, but take a guess. What do you think? You mess with them and play with them, and I do, and it usually, and if they know you're happy and you're not trying to dominate, you're just kind of having fun, and it's not. And I say 1,000 times, anything you're going through that's a problem, it's not your problem, it's our problem, because I love you and I'm for you. If you got a problem, I've got a problem. So let's figure this thing out. But the tone of voice, it matters so much. Parents can, okay, you can talk down and they'll just, they get it. They'll wreck. So yeah, and then you could say, if you said take a guess, and they say, I don't know, say, well, how about if I give you a little ID and you tell me what you think about it? Would that be all right? Okay, and then give them a little ID, little prompt, maybe not the full answer, but get them going a little bit and see if you're teaching them to think.
Yeah.
See, we want them, hey, look at this. What do you think? Let's see. Oh, we're in business. I shouldn't say this. I almost said there is a God. But okay. All right. Is that helpful? Relate as you're coaching. Tone is everything. Too much of the time, it's speaking down. It's I'm above you.
Especially when you have a kid that has, problem.
Yeah.
The next problem comes before the first problem is
Yeah.
resolved.
And it's all day long. Yeah. And we would, and again, as they got older, if there was something that couldn't be handled well just in the flow of life, and I'll talk about that tonight, but then we would write it down and say, we'll talk about that on Tuesday. We'll work on that, because it takes time to work through it. Okay? All right. So we're ready to go now. Fair enough? Thanks for coming. Would you pray that this will be worth your time? I hope that the Holy Spirit led you to come here. And if not, well, thanks for coming. But but I really mean that. We want to learn to be led by the Spirit and everything. So tonight I'm going to start by talking about authority. It's a bad word. Nobody likes it. Jesus said, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. In the first chapter of the book, my book, Discipled by Jesus, I explain all this. So I'm going to talk about 3 kinds of authority. I'm going to go through it as fast as I can. If you have questions, let me know. First is relational authority. Relational authority means that your child wants to do what you want him, her to do because they feel your love. They like you. They want to please mommy and daddy because of your love for them. Christ loved us, result in our response to him. Okay? So relational authority means that you have a good relationship, so they want to please you. If they don't want to please you, you probably don't have relational authority. You might, a little, but it's up for grabs. Okay? Relational authority. Then, the second one is rational authority. Rational authority means what I talked about, I think, last night or the night before, but it means that we're going to talk about the issue. Relational authority means I can say, would you do this? And they'll say, okay. Why? Because they want to please you, because you love them. And so there's a response of love. Rational authority means that you're having a conversation, you're listening, you're asking questions, they don't get it, or else they're going off on a tangent, and you say, well, let me tell you what I think. And let me have you tell me what you think about what I think. And they either don't have a reason for what they're wanting to do that is what you don't want them to do. We're talking about authority, i.e. commandment, direction, okay? So rational authority means they don't want to do what you want them to do, or they do want to do what you don't want them to do, and you're going to have a discussion about it. And you ask them about what they think or what they should do, and then you say, why do you think that? You make them give a reason for what they want, and that'll force them to start thinking beyond their little, you'll teach them. We all have to learn that. So it's good for you not to tell them to come up with, to tell them the reasons. It's good for you to ask them and let them try to figure it out. And then if they don't buy if you don't buy what they're saying, then you say, well, how about this? Can I tell you why I think it's really good for you to not have 6 bowls of pudding tonight? Oh yeah, whatever it is, Can I? And if you're hearing me, you're saying that's a lot of conversation. It's a lot of relationship, just like we are to have with Jesus. And when you lose relationship, you're in trouble. So rational authority means you're 20, 30, 40 years ahead of them. You should be able to outthink them. Meaning, you've got reasons. Don't say, because I told you to. I'll talk about that in a moment. But under rational authority, you're saying, come now, let us reason together. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you want. And then tell me why. And then I'll tell you what I think about what you think and want. And if it's different, I'll tell you why I think. And then we'll compare them. And when they buy into the idea that you're right, or they're inclined to do what you say because my daddy's smarter than your daddy. Hear that? That's, you have rational authority. They think you're smart. And you might need to prove it to them a few hundred times. They'll take it to start with, but after a while they'll start pushing your reasons, your behavioral expectations, okay? So, relational authority, they feel your love. Rational authority, they think you're pretty smart. And you earn that by having conversations. Make sense? And they just, they're not dumb. Kids are smart. They figure things out. And when you explain the why, and they see it's different than their explanation, and they go with you, you have rational authority. Okay? Then the last one I call positional authority. What that means is you're bigger than they are. You have more money than they do. You have a house, they don't. You have a car, they don't. You have a spanking strap, they don't. Positional authority means I am the head of the house. I am the king, the master, the lord of the house, and what I say goes. Now, many parents rely almost entirely on positional authority. Do this or else. I can impose my will on you. I can take away your freedoms. I can take away your allowance. I can make you go to bed without pudding. I have the power to do that. Most parents rely almost entirely on positional authority, and soon they're in trouble. Having said that, I'm going to talk about we need to establish positional authority right off the bat. But foundation for what we'll talk about tonight is 3 kinds of what's going on in the relationship. The motives for them to do what you want them to do. Okay? They love you. They think you're smart. They're scared to death that if they don't, they'll be sorry. Everybody clear? Okay. Let's go on. Now, here, we're going to work on a concept from parents having full positional authority. That means you are the parent, they are the child. Do you know what's happened in our country? Forgive my allusion to our country. Quite a few decades ago, the kids started running the household, and the parents let them do it. Not just the local, but in the culture. See? So there must be government in the home. The parent must say, this is the way, stay in it. And if you step out, here's what's going to happen. If you stay in, here's what's going to happen. Parents must determine the direction to start with. The parent decides what the child will do. Of course, the child can have whatever freedom you think, but the parent knows best. The child doesn't know what's best for the child. The child hardly knows anything. The parent must teach and train the child to obey and come under positional authority. The parent must decide what the child's going to do. The child doesn't get freedom to do whatever they want. Fair enough? Anybody arguing with that so far? Many people don't like that idea. Many parents think that's terrible. We have conversations. Okay. Let me push on. Then, the first phase, and I hope I've got a little graph here, but it's not showing up here. The first phase is the parent governs, the parent establishes behavioral expectations and enforces them. Okay? And I'll talk later on about how to do that, 8 steps. Second phase, first phase, parent decides. Second phase, depending upon, it's different for every person, different ages, but very early, the parent, instead of saying you have to, or you must, or you cannot, the parent, there is government, but the parent says, so, what do you think would be best? The parent starts asking the child the questions, or they'll come to you and say, Mommy, can I stay with Susie tonight? Or I want a new bicycle, or whatever they say at 3. You know, they'll come and they'll want stuff, and you'll think it's not best, or they won't want what you want. And so there comes a stage where you quit reminding them that you're gonna make them do what you intend for them to do. But you start reasoning with them. You start saying, okay, why do you think we have that rule in our family? What kind of rule would you have? Why? And so they'll say, I could do goofy things, but I won't tonight. I get carried away with this, but they'll say to you when they're 2, why? Don't they? Y'all aware of that? When they're just little mutts, you say, I want you to do, why? Well, the fact is, they're asking for a reason. So they're capable of reasoning. It's in their mindset to have a reason. They've figured out that there's behavior expected, but there should be a justification for the behavior, and they don't see why they don't want to do it. And so they say, why? Well, now you're getting in a stage where you start saying, okay, it's a good question. Let's talk about that. Why do you think I expect this of you? Why do you think Mommy said you had to do this? And then they give you their answer. If it's a good answer, you celebrate. Woohoo! You are one smart kid. So you know what is expected and you know the reasons why, so what are we going to do? Well, hopefully they'll say, I'll do it. At least it makes sense to them. If they say the wrong thing, which if they give bad reasons, things that are inadequate, which will happen, and they say, let's say they're 5-year-old and their friends are having a party, one of their kids has a birthday, friends has a birthday party, and they're going to do a bunch of stuff, what 5-year-olds are allowed to do, and the kids come and say, Mommy, can we go to this party? And so Mommy says, well, let me find out, investigates a little bit, and thinks, no, I don't think that's good. I don't think I want that to do. So Mommy says, no, I'm sorry, you can't go. Why? What's wrong? We don't get to do anything wrong. Well, hang on. Do you know why I think that's not best? Why do you think I might think that's not best? So you're starting to reason with them, okay? And then, under this stage, the parent retains full control. If the child agrees, the parent doesn't need to control. If the child disagrees, the parent needs to say, well, you have your reasons, I have my reasons. Right now, I'm the parent, you're the child, so nice conversation, but you're going to do what I said. And you enforce your government. Everybody okay so far? Then, next is another phase. What age? I could tell you a bunch of stories. Our kids, we started doing this third phase very, very early on purpose, but the parent, and I put teen up there, that said I'm pushing it up a ways, but we did it before that. Parents require that their children give rationale. Okay, Daddy, I want a new car, or I want the curfew changed till 12 o'clock. I'd like to go out with this group, blah, blah, whatever it is. You know, they'll want 1,000 things. And so they come, and now they've got the idea. If they ask to do something or ask why they have to do something, they know it's going to be a conversation. Our kids, my son loves to say, I didn't get in trouble just because I knew it'd be a long conversation with my dad, and I just didn't want to talk that long. So it worked better than a club. Anyhow, so parents require that teen give the rationale. The parent says, well, if you do that, what'll happen here? You're teaching them to think. You're trying to get them to grow up. Isn't that what we do? We have to look at the choices and the consequences, the implications of our choices. Well, instead of keeping them under our control until it's time for them to leave home, we're wanting them to learn to think on their own, but under our supervision. And so we're saying, all right, why do you think you should do that? Does that seem good? Well, what would happen if this happens? And then they still want to do what you're nervous about. There comes a time when it's not a life and death issue that you say, you know what? You want to do this. I don't think it's best for you. In fact, I don't like the idea. But let's talk about it. And you tell me what you think and why, and let me ask you questions. And I'll tell you what, because this